Welcome back to another episode of the Tommy Brideson Show. Today, I wanted to talk specifically about training and how to use it as a tool so that you can incorporate it into your lifestyle. Now, I think we could probably all agree on that it's the most potent tool that we can use that helps push you forward in life. It's something that you can use for training output to, work on a performance metric, whether it's competing in a sport, getting better at athletics. We can use it as something that we use to help and assist with pain, to improve on your quality of life so that you can have better output on your day-to-day. For some, they use it for training to build on their confidence and their ability to execute daily tasks. And they get that confidence through executing through training and following a process and taking the wins from training. And then for others, they do it for more so reasons of health, whether it's body recomposition, dropping some body fat, or the exact opposite, trying to put on some muscle mass, building up, some bone density, or whatever the case may be. But I think we could all sit here and agree on the fact that training as a tool is incredibly potent, and, everyone should be, partaking in some sort of training. Now, everyone's sort of shelf, their low-hanging fruit will be very different. Your start point's going to be very, very different. And, something that I often see with people when they're training is, what they start out with is, they progress that very quickly. So, for someone that hasn't trained for, 5, 10, 15 years and is just starting on that strength training journey, or, even just getting into the gym to do some cardio, for instance, you may just start off with 2 sessions a week. And you're like, at that point in their life and then their journey, that might actually be, a bit of a challenge. But, as you start to stack up the wins and you start to incorporate that into what you do, then it's like, well, I'm actually winning at this. And when you start winning, you then start adding layers. You're like, well, I want more. It's slightly addictive in a way, but, you start to add the layers of just winning. And then you're like, great, let's keep going on this. Let's add in 2 strength sessions and then have 2 cardio sessions. And then before you know it, you're training, 4 to 6 sessions a week. And it's just so well-rounded and incorporated into your lifestyle. So, that's obviously where we sort of want people to get with training, but everyone's sort of entry level into training is at a very, very different point. But when we're looking at training, it's nothing more than a tool. And, your current A, where you are now, and you're setting something that's, in a distance, it's, a future target to a point B. Now, for everyone, that point B is going to be very, very different. And also the start point is going to be very, very different. Now, say, for instance, someone's just started strength training and they're really interested in progressing their strength forward, and, they want to, go on and they want to, be a competitive powerlifter, for instance. They're going to be really motivated by the strength side of things, and they're going to want to continue to work on technique. They're going to want to continue to sort of, push their strength up and, get really proficient at the squat, bench, and deadlift in order to compete, step onto a platform and, hopefully, win some medals and, place at a national or, an international style competition. And that's great. But that's not going to be every single person's point A to point B. Someone that comes in and they've had, say they've been a tradie for, the last 10 or 15 years, and they've had debilitating back pain from sort of, being, in weird, awkward positions, lifting heavy objects and just being on the tools. For that person, their training is going to look very, very different because, they're not looking to, necessarily maximize strength. They do quite a bit of strength in their day to day, but what they're trying to do is improve on movement patterns and improve on, how they execute things so that they're in less pain, which means that then they might fall in love with training because they feel the benefits of it and then start to progress things forward. And then if we look at someone that's come in from, say, had a bit of an unhealthy relationship with food, is prone to putting on, a bit of weight, haven't had, a lot of activity in their day to day, say they're, a sedentary, office worker, for instance, them getting into the gym and just moving, just having higher output and, having a better ability to, function on a day to day because, they have a better aerobic base, they have more strength. That person their point B is actually just becoming more healthy. So everyone has a different start point and a different end point. But, the thing with training is these chop and change as you as a person change, as your values change, as your goals change. training should be something that is so well ingrained into your lifestyle. It's what you do, that it doesn't matter what direction you go in. You just pivot and change directions. Now, say for instance, the competitive powerlifter jumps into training, and then all of a sudden they're like, I actually just want to be fit and healthy. I don't need to be as strong as I once was. That's so okay. And that's when you go, well, I identify as someone who trains. So, I'm never not going to train. So instead of going, oh, well, I'm just going to stop training altogether and I'm going to, start playing chess, for instance, you just pivot your training to match what your values and what your goals are at that particular point in time. So, I think something, in this day and age with everything at our fingertips, like you can literally order something online and it's on your doorstep the same day or the next day. Training is one of those tools that we have that helps you build so much strength and resilience just through doing the thing, just through showing up and actually practicing the act of committing to something. That by itself is one of the most potent tools of training. Outside of all of the amazing, benefits you get from strength, from cardiovascular fitness, showing up and doing something repeatedly over time is something that's probably not that common these days. Everyone wants everything yesterday and everything is at our fingertips. So showing up for training, I honestly believe is that tool that then helps you show up for life, because you end up being able to stick to things. If you've got a goal, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, whether it's financial, you can use the lessons that you get through training to actually then push that towards your other goals. Like even me, for myself, when I left, school, for instance, I didn't particularly know what I wanted to do. I did well at school, but I knew I didn't want to go straight into the uni process. So the process of me getting a job and then getting into training sort of showed a different level of commitment, but the commitment was to myself, that I could show up and do hard things. There's days where you're like, I don't want to train. I don't feel like training, but you show up and you leave the gym and you never have a bad day for it. So I think, from a lifestyle perspective, training is the thing that you need to show up for so that you can show up to be a better person in your day to day. It's something that I'm really passionate about, because, I think even, in my gym and the facility that I own and operate, you see a lot of younger people come into this and, as a result of the training that they do, you see them start to make bigger wins in life as well. Like they start stacking up better jobs. They start stacking up and hanging around better friend groups. They end up having better relationships, where, they actually put effort into the things that they appreciate in their life. And they actually then, probably the more profound thing is they actually start to set boundaries for people. I don't want to be going out and, spending my weekend drinking and spending, a ton of time, just wasted time on the weekend feeling bad because I've gone out and partied the night before. You start to set boundaries for yourself of what you actually want to do, where you want to invest your time and energy, the friend groups that you hang out with, the people that you have in your corner. And, this is kind of like a big eagle eye looking down, but a lot of this stuff starts from training, and a lot of these changes that people make really do start in the gym. So I really believe that training is a tool. It's a medium that we use. And yes, it's for, fitness. It's a lifestyle, and you make better changes as a result of being better in the gym. Now, I think, something that ends up happening with a lot of people as well is they think that training can only come in one shape or form. And I was talking earlier on about your point A's to point B's. But, if I've been, a competitive powerlifter for, the last 5 years of my life, for instance, and I've fallen out of love with it, you can just shift and pivot things because it's just a tool. So you can still build strength. You can still build muscle. You can still be aerobically fit. You can have all those attributes, but your goals and your lens shift into a slightly different direction. Now, even using myself as an example, I'm still strong. I still build muscle mass. I get up and I do my, 3 to 6 hours of, zone 2 work a week. Do I identify as a powerlifter currently? No. Could I turn the heat up at any point in time and jump on a platform? Absolutely. And I probably will at some point in time. But right now, that's not serving my goal. So I'm going to shift my direction somewhere else. Say, one of my clients has a workplace injury and they're a competitive powerlifter and they tear a muscle, for instance. they can easily just shift and pivot their training to a bit more of a rehab focus where they can still get into the gym. They can still get all the benefits of training, but the overall goal and the priority of that training has shifted because they want to be out of pain, they want to be strong, they want to be functional again for the work. But at any point in time, you can change that direction. Now, I actually work with a few people now that split their year in half, where for part of the year, they'll do more of like an aerobic-based sport, say running, or doing like a triathlon or something like that. So they may dedicate half their year to, doing more output in the aerobic sense. But then they use training as a tool, then strength training as a tool to keep them all together so that they're moving well and they can continue to do that. But then they might go, hey, well, for the other half of the year as well, I wouldn't mind jumping into a powerlifting comp and using my strength and, really giving these things a nudge up. One, it keeps things quite nice and interesting, but you work on different components because, throughout a training year, it's probably more beneficial to break your year up into chunks of time. Like you might want to spend time building muscle mass, building strength, building aerobic fitness. So in doing an approach like that and not saying, hey, my identity is wrapped up in one key thing, you can have a bit more of a flexible approach to your training where it's still super constructive, but it just means you've got a little bit of flexibility in like the way that you push your intensity essentially. If you're really pushing your aerobic output, you're probably not going to be at your strongest, but that's okay because you're not actually focusing on being your strongest at that point in time. And, with training, there's no real sort of end point as such for anyone that has it as like part of their lifestyle and it's ingrained into what they do. There's no real endpoint. So you're not going to just say, okay, well, I've done that comp or I've done that event or I've gotten to a certain level of strength and fitness and just stop, because it's something that you age with. And as you age, your values and your goals are going to change as well. So, I very much came into, owning this gym and operating my gym in a powerlifting sense, but the reality is I see a lot of the guys that come in here and they train for powerlifting, but, as they grow up and as they mature and, their goals and values shift, they also then shift away from powerlifting. And it doesn't mean that they don't, love the sport or they haven't enjoyed or taken so many lessons from it. But what they're actually then doing is going, well, that no longer suits my lifestyle and where I sort of want to go. I still want to strength train. I still want to be strong. I still want to build muscle mass. So I'm going to pivot my training where it's a little less intense towards one direction and then move it back in the other direction because, it's something that you're never going to stop doing. It's something that you're going to continue to develop with. And, at some point in time, you may, be running up a hill and you're like, man, I don't want to feel this unfit anymore. Something's got to change here. If I can't run up a hill, that's a problem. So, then your values are going, hey man, I've spent so much time actually being a strength athlete, but I actually want to be more of a, for lack of better words, I don't really like this term, hybrid athlete, but all that really means is that you actually want to have a base level of like mobility and fitness to go along with the strength and the muscle mass that you've built. So I think, one of the most profound things that we can do in life is train because it sets the scene for so many aspects of your life outside of the gym. And I think it's something that, we also need to grow and develop with as our goals, as our values change. And I think it's just something that we need to keep in mind because, definitely in my circle, a lot of people come in with a real focus point on like, I want X and I want Y. But once you've achieved X and Y, what's after that? It's got to be ingrained into what you do. And more to the point, you actually need to enjoy the process of what you're trying to achieve. Like once you achieve your goal, you're just going to, shift your mindset to sort of, onto the next goal or onto, whatever it is that you move on to next. So you want to make sure that you're actually enjoying that process alongside of just focusing on the goal itself, because, within the process of it, there will be days where there's absolutely no gratification. You're doing it for yourself here. You're coming into the gym and you're doing it for yourself because of the outcome and you feel so good for doing it. So, if you don't actually enjoy the process, along the way, it's actually not that fun and you're probably going to fall out of love with it and stop doing it. So to really incorporate it into your lifestyle, you have to be enjoying the process and the step alongside working hard. It's not just about the outcome. It's about the lifestyle and the benefits that you get alongside of that as well. And that's it for today's episode. I'll see you guys next time.